which is why we're working on Comet, our browser. It's not just a browser to put perplexity, it's a search engine and the Omnibox and all that. Yes, that's very useful. I can get some more usage and stuff. But the real AI is asynchronously.
For example,
Take an example where like go run my ad campaign on Facebook for me, or like talk on my behalf to FedEx customers to complain about a package that's missing from me, or like set up my own Shopify store. These are the products I want to list. You know, these are the images here. All the details are in this Google Drive file. There's a link. It'll do it. Or like I'm trying to start. I started a new company and I'm recruiting for a back-end software engineer with experience in like Kubernetes and so on. And you've written a JD, you've written a bunch of requirements, a bunch of companies to recruit from. You can just have Comet Assistant just go and source those candidates, put them in a spreadsheet, and write personalized outreach messages on your behalf, and draft those emails for you on your inbox, have it ready for you to approve. You can even send if you approve it. And the next step, honestly, is state tracking. So you don't even have to do it as a one-time task. These are continuously running in the background. So when you get a response from any of those candidates or your email, the assistant automatically takes care of scheduling it on your behalf, puts it on your calendar, prepares you for your day, sends your prep notes ahead of the meeting. So it truly feels like you've hired someone. It's no longer a chatbot. It's no longer like you opening voice mode and like, hey, tell me about Jawaharlal Nehru, or tell me at what year was Modi ji first like Chief Minister of Gujarat. Like that's like done. Yes, there are still some hallucinations here and there, but just zoom out, think about it 5 years from now. There'll be zero hallucinations. Everything will be perfect. Someone's gonna crack the indexing problem, real-time information, speed, accuracy, like efficiency. It's basically going to be $0 worth whatever is behind paywalls right now. What will be worth a few dollars is like what is being paid for by the economy. Like what is valuable in the economy is whatever you pay people for, right? A reasonable definition. You hire an analyst for a certain amount. You hire a recruiter. You hire a sourcer. You hire an executive assistant, personal assistant, editor, most kinds of jobs. Imagine if an AI can help you do all that much faster. What would happen is you would hire fewer people, but that doesn't mean there'll be a lot of unemployed people. There'll be more people starting their own businesses, and they'll hire the others. So there'll be a lot more small businesses running with both humans and AIs, and all humans will be using these AIs as their assistants. So that initial world which is the current state of the world, where people only, the billionaires and the really rich ones, or like people running businesses have executive assistants and personal assistants, that's gonna become more of a norm. Just like how the president of the United States and you can be using the same phone, all of us can have like a similar level of personal assistance in our day-to-day life. That is not just synchronous chat interaction, it'll be asynchronous background execution. And then the future is honestly like if you want to have Comet go and make money for you while you sleep. Let's say you own some Nvidia stock and you're sleeping the night, you just want to have time with your family, you want to play with your kids, whatever. And suddenly there's some news that OpenAI is buying like $100 billion of Nvidia chips, let's say, right? And you want to just quickly buy like $1,000, or you know that the stock is going to increase for sure on the news, and you bought it like way earlier, so you want to like liquidate some of that and just see some gains. Wouldn't it be easier if this an AI took care of this for you, made its decisions, just confirm you got a push notification, you just approve it, and you're still like hanging around with your family, instead of you like worrying about it, opening your phone and like checking the stock price and calling your friends, hey, what should we do? Just a very simple example that a lot of people go through on a daily basis. Or like let's say you booked your flight and then a browsing assistant took care of seeing if there's another flight just cheaper and just booked it for you on your behalf and canceled your existing flight. Wouldn't it be amazing? Or this has happened to me. I go to the airport and the flight's like 2 hours later, 3 hours later, and I absolutely need to get to the other place on time because there's a meeting scheduled for me there. I mean, I call my assistant and ask them to help me. But imagine something like Comet did it. Like literally, it figured you're late. It tells you, even when you're on Uber, you don't even have to go all the way there to find out. And then books the alternate flight for you, checks you in, does all this, saves you some time and money. If this happens on a daily basis for every single person on the planet, think about the amount of value that gets created and shared between the user and the agent, right? So that's where we're heading to. This is no longer going to be chat. Chat's going to feel very old. Just like how Google feels today relative to answer engines like Perplexity, our goal is to make Comet make you feel like Perplexity is very old and simple. It's still useful, like you're not still going to use Perplexity for, your curiosity is not going to die. You're still going to ask questions about so many different things, and it's going to be a world-class tool for that. But Comet's going to make you feel like AI is so far ahead than just answering questions.
So what I'm realizing is that instead of the output being information and reorganization of information, maybe connecting a few dots between different sets of datas, that when I ask a question, it can do right? That's been what it has been. Now it's moving to this execution part where agents are important and you can actually execute value and therefore generate value and share value. Because artificial intelligence can not only understand the text input you give it, but then run that execution over the internet. Is that a fair understanding of this?
Correct.
So we are...
And just like how you wouldn't hire someone on your team who doesn't know how to use the internet, would you?
No.
Literally, not a single role, not even a janitor.
Right, I mean, it's not understanding.
Think about it's not even an interview skill you test for, right? But AIs don't have that skill today. Like, AIs are not, like whatever website in the world that exists, whether they have backend APIs or not, whether they have MCP servers or not, whether the UI on those websites are good or not, you expect a human to deal with all these things. AI should also deal with all these things. It's not the user's concern if someone has an API to connect to for a call for an AI.
Agreed. I don't care.
You don't care.
I don't
it's the problem of the company, like Perplexity, to care about those things. And simplify it for you.
Yes.
Which is where the need for a browser comes in. The browser is the infrastructure to use the internet, consume and act and like...
Sure, those are the roads.
Exactly, right? It is the foundation of the internet. There's no other way to consume the World Wide Web in the way we act and live today.
Yes.
You said it's equivalent of roads.
Yes. It's the UI, it's the system.
Exactly.
Like, how do I say, it's the window into the
Correct.
internet. Yes.
So
what a portal I access for.
Elon Musk gives us like a pretty good analogy. Like we had roads, we used to go on horses. And now all the physical infrastructure in the world today exists for like cars. And that's why he's building self-driving, full self-driving. Same thing, imagine for the digital world. It's the browser. Browser is the road, and something like Comet Assistant would be the equivalent of full self-driving. But it's going to go through those stages exactly like how Tesla went through. It's going to start from basic ADAS to like, somewhat of an autopilot, and then entirely full self-driving mode where you can just delegate and just watch. And of course, the safety standards are even lower in the digital world than physical.
Sure.
Yep. And guardrails can be set easier. And the state of reasoning models for digital knowledge work is way higher right now than physical. So this is going to take off much faster than that 10-year journey that self-driving cars went through.
Interesting.
But it's going to have a lot of investment being put into it. Only few companies can afford it at the scale of the human population.
Go straight up.
Constant RL and test time training needs to be done to keep improving it and closing the loop. But it's going to be the first time when every user has the power of personal AI in their hands. So when you consume things on the web, things on the internet, you're always in someone else's funnel. Like you're being optimized for getting converted to an ad. Like when you're on Google, you're on Google's funnel. Because for them, when you search for a hotel, you click on a link and you actually book the hotel, they're making a ton of money. And even if you don't click on it, they're making money. So that's the economy they've created. So they have all this AI in the world to track you and still adds to you. You don't have any AI in your hands to fight that. Comet will change that. You can instruct your Comet assistant to just say, hey, go to this website and ignore every ad there. And just do what is relevant for me. And this is what I want.
So, are you telling me, and I mean, I don't mean to trivialize it, so I'm talking about it from a science viewpoint, I'm talking about it from an imagination point of view, right? If I retroactively think about LLMs in the textual form also, they seem pretty primitive in that it seems like DOS. It seems like the original operating system.
That's a good analogy.
Right?
It's a good analogy.
But when it came, it was like this magical thing.
Yeah.
And so I don't mean to trivialize this thing, but what I'm understanding is the cutting edge we have is effectively assistants who can dynamically move around the internet, buy, sell, create value, that kind of stuff. That's the cutting edge we've got right now.
More than that, it can go do research for you.
Can it solve harder problems that people cannot solve? Is that intellectually possible right now?
So it depends on what is hard. What is hard for you may not be hard for an AI.
What is hard for humanity?
Like open problems in science, mathematics, like Clay Institute problems. Can it go like figure out the Navier-Stokes equations? Those things are still beyond reach, and we are not actively working on solving that at our company. But I think some companies are. Like I think DeepMind is trying to do this kind of things.
Right.
I do think it's possible that there's some AI, when you allocate a lot of compute to it, in terms of inference time compute, could help humans solve an existing open problem. That's very different from AI solving it autonomously. I would still think the edge lies with the humans because it was the human who identified the problem in the first place. Did an AI pose its own question and try to go solve it? No. The curiosity of the human that led to even considering that it's an important and interesting problem to think about, conjecture. Like why would Fermat, like of course, the Fermat's last year, he famously said the margin is too small for the proof, and people make fun of that as a meme. But even if he didn't have the proof, he had the creativity to think about it. Most of Ramanujan's identities have no proofs, but famously they're almost always right. I've never seen an AI, even signs of life in an existing AI that you could extrapolate and think that it could get there to show that level of creativity and curiosity on its own.
It's a very interesting point. So, what that tells me is that one, there is a hard problem in nature to open existing issues in science and mathematics that AI cannot solve. Then two, it cannot come up with original problems yet either. So, like, I feel like,
or just even conjecture.
Or just conjecture.
Like, why would you want to wonder about something? Like, most of Ramanujan's identities may not have anything to do with practical relevance. So it's not a goal-directed thinking.
It's just abstraction for the sake of abstraction. Kind of.
It's just pure intrinsic curiosity.
Yes.
That is the quality that AI lacks that humans have.
Very interesting.
And I believe, at least at this company, we believe that that is the one quality that humans will have for themselves. AIs can be prompted to be curious about different topics and pose questions when given the parent prompt, but that completely completely disconnected from any goal. That kind of curiosity, humans have exhibited it over many decades or centuries. That's going to stay with us, and we're going to be even more curious with the power of AIs.
You don't think that would then act true agency? Like, the definition of true agency would have to mean this kind of floating curiosity that leads me somewhere.
Correct.
Right? Even in animals, you see it, not in the most direct sense, but like a wolf is just going to walk the jungle. It's just going to, it treats itself as an autonomous agent. It goes around and sometimes finds food, sometimes finds shelter, sometimes does not.
Yeah.
That's an agentic quality that seems to be missing. And you're saying that that's going to be exclusive to humans in the long run.
I believe so.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
There's so much more to do in the world. Like, the world is very interesting. I think we created the internet. First of all, like, why would you even create something like the internet?
To share information over.
Yeah, but why? Like, a lot of things exist in, like why did we create Minecraft? Why did we create Roblox?
I see what you mean. Why the specific?
Twitch streams? Like, these are all arbitrary creations that we came up with. And you can ask an AI to write the code, like write something similar to Roblox, and it'll write the code for it and like give you the source code or whatever. But the core idea of why you even wanted to do it, is that something an AI can?
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
And that's where I feel a lot of people ask me, oh, like AI's taking over jobs, what should we do? Like, should we learn prompt engineering? Should we do? Yes, of course you should learn how to use all these AIs in your day-to-day tasks. Like,
Ready to
no,
turn
it's
right.
table stakes. But the edge lies in you just
Turn right.
truly realizing that you're special for a reason, and don't work with the paradigm of yesterday where, like, you know, you were just
A cog.
supposed to appear smarter than your peers by learning more about something and coming and showing off. You know, that's not needed. Like, there'll always be something smarter than you, or other people in your company, which is an AI, because it has access to everything.
Right.
You're gonna appear smart by posing the right questions, or even posing a question of, what if we think about it this way? What if we think about it that way? Connecting the dots, zooming out and like looking at things in a different way. A lot of theoretical computer science problems were solved by reorienting the problem.
Yeah.
You would take an existing problem, you would map it into another problem in a completely different abstraction, like a graph problem, and then you would solve it using an existing solution to that field.
Huh.
Or a lot of ways in which you say one problem is NP hard or NP complete is to like reformulate it as an existing problem that you already know is NP hard, NP complete. So that kind of skill set that we humans have will be way more handy in a world where AIs are able to do a lot of the actual solving work or like execution work. We're just gonna sit and think and like reformulate things and be curious about new things that we earlier didn't even have the time to. Now think about, like, most people are not even having the time to be the most curious versions of themselves, because most of your time is just spent in exams and like get grades and get a job and you have to go through the ladder. You know, you have to make money, pay your mortgage, like, you know, you have a family. By the time you actually have some breathing space, you've already like
Mid-40s.
gone through your entire peak brain capacity.
Yeah.
And it's too late. And everyone's like, oh, it's too late, I just want to chill, I don't have the energy. Imagine that's no longer the case.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It's a fascinating idea. I feel like memory function, the utility of memory as a function is going to go down. It has gone down since the internet. Now it's
Oh yeah, like, look, I used to remember all the phone numbers of all my relatives when I grew up, because we had dial-up internet at that time,
right.
and a regular phone line. And then most people would come to me and, hey, like, dial this number for me. I don't remember. I never had like this. I think Nokia itself was pretty.
Quantum leap in remembering.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like, people had this phone book, contact book. They would manually write it down. All this like old stuff we used to have is gone, right? Like, yes, I still think my memory is useful to me. Like for some reason, like I can, for example, a lot of CEOs have chiefs of staff, people doing work for them, kind of like writing their notes in meetings, keeping a track to like follow up with the engineers or whatever, like, you know, other executives. I don't need any of that. Like, I can literally remember who's working on what and know when to ping them because they gave me an ETA. Or I'll ask Perplexity, it has connections to all my Slack workspace, Gmail, calendar, everything. So I literally don't need any of that. And the role of my assistant is actually to help me in things that are more to do with physical world health. Like, for example, this podcast, or like other things that might not be able to just be done with the internet. So they're also adapting, right? My AAs use Comet a lot. you think with the Comet, I don't need an EA. They're actually using it so much that they're kind of like working like chiefs of staff themselves. So all our jobs are upgrading so fast, and interestingly, what I noticed is age or any of that has no bearing on like how fast someone adapts it. I think some of the highest users of our internal tools like happen to be among the older people actually. So it's very interesting how fast people adapt and think, and it's all about the mindset. If you've gone through the paradigm shifts of like the regular world, the internet, the mobile era, you will naturally adapt. So what is one thing that's a constant thing for people who've successfully adapted is they're curious.
Right, sure.
At the
Yeah.
roundabout.
You should actually consider writing Twitter a paper about curiosity function over memory function in the future.
Yeah.
It'd be great, like.
I mean, you look at some of the artwork here. A lot of
Exit now.
if you turn back, it's like there's always more to learn. We celebrate curiosity in this company. Like we think the potential is infinite. The whole branding
Go straight on.
is around curiosity. We think, we say where knowledge begins. It's actually a quote from this person called Geeta Iyengar, where she says that knowledge has a beginning but no end. And David Deutsch, one of the
Beginning of infinity.
what is the fundamental point he makes is we humans are the only species that are capable of being curious about the familiar. Like animals are curious too, but they're curious about things that they don't yet know or it's very new to them. Humans, like you can understand, like Einstein understood Newtonian physics. He fully understood it, but he was still curious about what happened. Where does it break?
Right.
And that's what led to him being so famous, because he completely changed how people thought about where Newtonian physics breaks at the speed of light. Why did he even wonder about these things? It's because he was curious about what is already familiar, but he gave it a different twist to it.
Very interesting.
And I think that's what's going to happen. Like you're not going to take things for granted. You're not going to be considered smart just because you know a lot of things. You're going to be considered smart for posing the right questions. You're going to be considered smart for like doing things in a very unconventional way. And that's what will change. That's how society is going to change. And I'm really hoping, like we're working hard towards that, but I'm really hoping our tool is a catalyst for this change. Because in a world where you have something like Perplexity or ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever is your favorite AI, why should you even like know the answers to things?
I agree. There is no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt that for a while. I'll come to that in just a second. I want to ask you, when a human is talking to an artificial intelligence, LLM based or otherwise, is that a conversation between intellectual equals, or how do you conceptualize it internally?
It's not. It's a different kind of intelligence.
Completely different or slightly different? Is it like
It's
the
quite-
same
it's
stem
quite-
and they branch off, or is it two completely different stems?
It's completely different, like biological, like just in terms of efficiency per watt. Our brains are not like consuming the amount of electricity that's being consumed by the giant data centers that is running inference for all these models. We have a lot of parameters. That's not like it's not the amount of parameters that's the problem. These models are getting like 10 trillion, 100 trillion, whatever, right? It's about the efficiency of the parameter use. Our connections, our neural circuitry is a lot more efficient, a lot more sparse, a lot more energy efficient. It has a better version of memory than these current systems have. Like sometimes we can access really, really old childhood memories. Right. And it's more fuzzy. But then we can go and remember exact details too when we want to. Right, like especially in our dreams, like our past just plays back sometimes in like rich detail. So there's definitely a very different way in which we backpropagate the memories, learn new things and stuff like that. And at some point, obviously, our circuitry stops changing fast. It's not as flexible. So the plasticity is also like a thing that is dynamic, not static. And these are not things that the current models have. So they're obviously like learning in a very different way. But at the same time, like they have things that we don't have, which is they can work 24/7. They can put more compute on things when they want to. They can reason harder about things. They can consume a lot more input than we can. Like an AI can look at 10,000, 100,000 million documents at once. They have access to other tools that help them do that, like search engines and like indexes and stuff like that. They can consume visual input at a way higher bandwidth than we can in terms of frames per second. So it's very different. And I think the combo, the human brain and the AI intelligence, like together, combined, is even more interesting to me, because that can enable you to solve problems that you could never think about. And that's what's interesting. Like, I don't think it's happened quite yet that a mathematician came and took advantage of the most sophisticated model right now, most sophisticated reasoning model right now, and solved a problem that otherwise was pretty hard to solve. But I hope that happens pretty soon, because I think that'll like steer the human population more towards like
this kind of
work. I even think about not just in terms of like, oh, a technology that's only useful for the elite academics, but for every basic person. If you always work together with an AI all the time, and that became the default way in which you work, you start to do more question work, posing the right questions and digging deeper. No one's like here to tell you that you're not supposed to ask these questions. Most of the times you're told that it's because the person you're asking those questions to, they don't know the answer, but they don't want to appear dumb to you. Right? It happens a lot in schools.
Yeah, right.
And then once it keeps happening, you grow with the mindset that you're not supposed to ask people hard questions. It becomes a habit. Actually, podcasts are a very interesting format. Like you're posing questions to me. It's not like I know all the answers, right? I'm just giving you what I think is right, and your viewers might be like, oh, it's not saying the right things. But at least it's interesting. We are engaging in a exercise of
thinking,
digging deeper, right?
Yep.
Our understanding of subjects, our clarity increases. So that's what I'm pretty excited about, and that's where I hope the world change faster. I don't think the world is changing that fast. Like the speed at which these tools are improving their capabilities, I don't think the rest of the population is adapting to like how they use these tools in that manner. For example, most people are still stuck in this asking questions paradigm. I don't even think that's widely adopted yet. There are still people just searching on Google in the traditional way and opening links and reading stuff.
Yep.
I wouldn't even want people to do that right now. Not because that serves me for my business, but I just think it's like very inefficient. I've had like real life examples where someone's like, oh, did NVIDIA invest in CoreWeave? And then I literally asked Perplexity on voice mode and show the answer in 2 seconds. This person was like searching on Google NVIDIA CoreWeave, and that's like some 7 links.
Right. No, I completely.
And then, and that itself is old in my opinion. Like we have to move people towards using reasoning models, using like all these like agents that go do stuff for them. I think that's going to take a few more years. So the speed at which these tools are improving is so amazing that even just having their benefits widely distributed is going to take many years.
You said that this biological form of intelligence is very separate from this form of intelligence that is powered by electricity at a different scale, and you can take a lot more input into stuff. It's much more efficient. The plasticity is a whole different magical wonder in biology that sort of self-connects, and it's got a sense of intuition and instinct which is very different from a compute-driven form of thinking. It's a different intelligence, and I track your point here. But I want to know, this is kind of maybe speculative, maybe philosophical, but do you ever wonder about how the biological intelligence, which is as humans, how do we understand? Like, what does it mean to understand for humans? Because where I'm getting to that question on the first level is, what do you think understanding means? The second thing is, how does the artificial intelligent agent or LLM kind of model human understanding?
Well, there are a lot of ways to. So first of all, Feynman has this very nice framework, which I personally like, you don't truly understand something until you can recreate it.
Right. Sure.
So from a physics perspective, can you recreate the entire universe again? Or at least, do you know the recipe for doing that? Whether it's physically impossible, like astronomical amount of energy required, all that stuff.
Do you understand the theory?
Yeah, and that's why people work on the Big Bang and all that, right? So from an AI perspective, or for that matter, anything you do, let's say you're working on an app, you truly understand your app. What does it mean to truly understand your app? Do you know everything that goes on the back end? Can you write the whole code for the back end? Can you write the whole code for the front end? Do you know where the data is stored? Do you know how the database works? Do you know how the reads and writes work? Do you know what happens when a user types in an input, how it's communicated to your back? Like, I can keep going to all sorts of detail, and at some point you'll break, right? And you can be a world-class engineer, and you may still not know it. So that's one way to think about what it means to understand. It's a very rigorous definition. There's like abstract way of understanding things, which can be a working definition that serves practical purpose. But truly understanding means you can go into any arbitrary level of depth and detail, and you should still be able to answer. In my opinion, knowing the answer to that is less important than being able to figure out. So I like the word learning to learn. So if you ask me today, do I truly understand how Perplexity works, the product? I think the answer is no, because it's gotten so complicated enough that I can't keep track of everything we do on the back end anymore. But can I understand it if I want to? Like,
sure. If you chose
yeah,
to. Right.
If I chose to, yes, that's no problem for me. Can I, if I want to, rewrite the entire app? Of course, it's not going to be doable in a few weeks or months, even though some people like to think that they can write Perplexity in a weekend. No, it's impossible at the scale of server. But can I do it if I chose to? Yes, like I can. And I think that's the whole concept of learning to learn. And the world's most exceptional people, like say Elon Musk, they have this ability to do it across fields, like not just software, hardware, manufacturing, like rockets, anything. That's incredibly hard. Like the same brain that reasons about like constraints in fuel efficiency and like the material used to manufacture things, and like factories and like parts, all that stuff. Also reasoning about software and AI and model training and tokens and how the app works. It's very hard. But I would say that is I think Jensen had this quote in a recent interview that Elon is the ultimate GPU. So that's like another way of thinking about like general intelligence. Is can you have an AI that's like way more versatile than his brain, and not just the ability to know all these topics which current models can, but ability to go deep into anything and keep posing the right questions and like getting to the bottom of things. That he calls it the first principles thinking. Can you do that? First principles thinking across different topics. There's a reason it's called first principles thinking. If you have that ability, you don't need to worry about whatever topic you're in. You can do it for any topic. Like if you work in AI, you can understand computing itself, 4-bit computing, 2-bit, like 1-bit computing. You can talk about chips. You can talk about like electrons, the speed of light. Everything boils down to that.
Fundamental law.
Fundamentally, right? Everything else, like how you do matrix multiplies, how you do the gradient descent, like how you like back all these models across GPU chips. How do you serve inference? How do you build data centers? How does the app work on top of all these models? How do you crawl the web? These are all like just fundamentally engineering problems at its core. So if you have the ability to go deep into anything, you can solve a lot of hard problems. Of course, it's this is where I think you are truly testing the limits of the power efficiency of your brain, because if you're actually forcing it to think this hard about so many hard problems simultaneously, it's very hard. But that's where like a silicon CPU chip has more advantages than human brain because it's not gonna
Right.
have these limitations.
Right. So I understand what you're saying is if to understand means to be able to recreate. And
That's one way of
that's
thinking
one
about
way. It's a
it.
very good
I
way.
prefer the other. I know that's Feynman's way, but I prefer first principles thinking. The ability to go learn and have the learning to learn ability.
Right.
You know, if you want to learn, you can learn.
Right. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And even then, I feel like it's such a ambiguous topic because, for instance, a human being 1,000 years ago did not understand gravity but could recreate gravity by just dropping something, something falls. So they don't really understand the mechanics of it.
But no. They didn't recreate gravity by dropping it. Like they didn't even notice that it's something worth recreating. You know, they just took it for granted.
Right.
Someone was curious enough to ask why are things dropping.
Huh.
That was Newton.
And therefore he
So
understood.
that's the ability for being curious about what is already happening around you.
Got
It's not like animals. Look, monkeys are also dropping things all the time from the trees, right? So they also implicitly observe gravity, but they were not curious enough to like dig deeper and ask why. Why is this happening?
I get it.
Yeah.
And that's a sort of observation in the physical space. I see something happen and do I understand it or do I just know it?
Yeah.
But in the way that I interact with an LLM, for
Yeah.
instance, it's through text.
Yeah.
And language is a complicated problem. There's subphrases, there is grammar, there is meaning, there is adjectives that add or remove meaning and amplify or sort of minimize what I'm trying to say. And so there's a whole range of things that's happening within language. And I'm wondering if AI is sophisticated enough to model how humans think.
Turn left.
Or
Well,
is it just a recreation? Is
you're
it just
basically
pattern?
asking, can AI do theory of mind,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I think the question you gotta ask first is, can we humans do it first ourselves? Like,
So you're saying is theory of mind that I feel like you were thinking something and you know that I'm thinking something.
yeah,
Very assumption.
it's not something that
not
we
true.
do well ourselves. Like, a lot of people lack basic EQ for a reason. You know, in fact, it's funny. Like, a lot of people with very high IQ lack EQ, and so it's not like high IQ is a correlation for just benchmark maxing on coding or math competitions might not necessarily lead to a great theory of mind.
So if you're very good at say math or computer science, it doesn't mean you will understand other humans as well.
Well, that we human beings are a proof for that. There's a reason like a lot of people call some of the most smartest as like these are autistic people, right?
If you're not socially great,
Socially great or like
emotionally
just
good.
not able to understand what makes someone else feel bad or good, or
Right.
not being able to like be supportive or caring for
At the
someone.
roundabout,
I don't think these
take
are
the
like
second
skills that
exit.
correlate with like being extremely smart at math or programming. or
Exit
something
now.
like that.
Right.
So I'm just telling you that like it's not a skill that even we human beings have, and so it's not easy, but nothing stops an AI from being good at it. Some humans are very good at being manipulative. You know, they can tell you what you want to hear at that moment in time in order to get you to do work for them. There's this whole concept of dopamine, like creating the right set of dopamines for getting people to do things, right?
Right.
It's called
Incentivization.
Incentivization.
Exit
And
now.
a lot of culture programming in companies or factories is largely comes down to that. Like, what is the right set of incentives to provide to people to keep them happy yet work really hard? And so that's what makes like people good operators or leaders. They understand
At
these
the
things and they
roundabout, take the second exit.
manufacture this at a system level. And obviously countries need this too.
Right.
Political leaders have that. Can an
Exit
AI,
now.
like maybe I'll take your question to another level in terms of theory of mind modeling. Can an AI write a very compelling political campaign for someone?
At the
So
roundabout,
understand the
take
user base
first
where they're at,
exit.
and then bring them from that state to the desired state
Yes.
that the campaign might
Exit
want.
now.
Yes, like, and yes, like you can say AIs are already like helping political leaders write speeches and all that. You know, they put it
Go
in
straight on.
one of the
and
AIs
then
and
turn
just
left.
get it and they can go and speak on them. No, that's not interesting. You still have to give the core seed prompt of like what you want to say, what are the things you're trying to address. I'm saying that you give away all your agency to the AI. The AI is gonna read all the web and Reddit and like Instagram, YouTube, everything. Read people's comments everywhere, which honestly a lot of bots do. So it's not true people signal.
Yes.
But let's assume like it's so aware of that too,
Right.
and can come up with exactly the right campaigning for you, and that helps you win the election. That I would say is a true test of theory of mind capability.
And do you think
I don't think we have that AI today.
pretty far from that?
I don't know if we're very far, but I don't think we have it today.
Got it. And
I also worry that what would it look like if we had it?
yes,
I think that
it's a scary place.
it is pretty scary.
Yeah.
It's not an AI. It's not something that is just going to be useful for winning elections. It can also be useful for disrupting elections.
Or for that matter,
Like for example, the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal and Russia interfering with America. No one even knows what happened at the end of the day, but the fact that everyone got spooked about it and Facebook never recovered from that bad reputation. Think about that happening with an AI that's so powerful that like you can just deploy a lot of bots and they all appear like real humans. And they're not just bots that would look at your existing comment and respond to it. They're actually bots that have agency and state. So they're kind of like agents. They keep running across a time period of 1 year or 2 years, and they keep slowly changing your political spectrum,
yeah.
specifically targeted at people they want to. So that's like very crazy, and that can be done by a foreign actor too, not just internally. So that's why I mean some of this technology in the hands of the wrong people can lead to pretty bad outcomes, but not in a way that's worse than what's already happened. It's just adding one more dimension to it.
Right.
Yeah.
You were saying so.
So I'm just saying, when you're wishing for theory of mind and all that, like just be careful what you're wishing for, because I do think I've thought about this problem a lot, and I think I'm happy if AIs are actually like just doing stuff for us and kind of like boring and like just taking care of all the mundane stuff and letting us be our best version of ourselves, most curious versions of ourselves. That's what our company focuses on.
Sure.
I cannot stop others from working on this kind of like grandiose ambitions, like cracking theory of mind and personal superintelligence and all that. Because when that happens, I do think the world can be a pretty crazy place. Yeah.
Have you heard of the Chinese room experiment that John Searle talks about?
Yeah.
And I remember I came across the experiment before.
So that, by the way, that is the flaw with you do not truly understand until you can create it. That is the flaw with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll give audience a context on what the experiment is. Effectively, if you put a man inside a box and you give him a transcript where one symbol translates into another symbol, and for the second column, the answer column, you have a list of symbols in there, and then Arvind from outside hands you a symbol, and you can column 1, match it to column 2 and pass it outside, and the answer is correct. Did you truly understand? Or did you just match an index and that's what you did? And so my sense when I first saw ChatGPT was that this is a Chinese box experiment.
Not exactly.
Not exactly. Tell me what's the difference?
Well, it's all about the speed at which it can do it.
Sure.
And
on the dimension of understanding.
Yeah, look, I would say, it's the same thing whether you really understand something. Okay, if you hired someone and they're just taking your meeting notes and like transcribing it or whatever, right, quickly writing down notes and passing the call to action items to everyone who attended the meeting.
Right.
Do they actually understand like the technical details? There's a job title called program manager. They can be part of an engineering or research meeting. They can write down every single thing that the researchers and engineers said, and they can ping each of the researchers and engineers what next. And they don't have to understand a single thing of what's being said.
But they do understand the meaning of the words used. They may not be able to understand the ultimate meaning of the sentence.
Why would they understand things like we gotta figure out infrastructure problems. We gotta migrate from this database to that database.
But they know what a database is.
Yeah, they know the name of it.
Sure.
It's the same Feynman argument. Like you know the name of the bird, you don't know what that bird is. Like you don't actually know why that exists or how it came to be. And I think like just like how it's okay for a human to be functional and useful in the context of labor and economy, it's okay for an AI to not truly understand something
But
and yet be functional. It's not the same as a Chinese room argument though. It's not like someone's actually handing over things and like it's just like reproducing it token by token, because it's able to do things that don't even exist. You can throw completely new things at it, like stuff like, you know, rearrange this in this way, or write this poem with this person's name. So like write me a poem where like the first word is Hindi and the second word is English in each sentence, but it should still rhyme and it should still coherently make context. So these are very hard things that no one's already created and it's still able to do. So I think like if it's the way it's training, where it's literally reproducing next word after previous word, turns out that it's very hard to do this at the scale of trillion tokens without having some sense of like why a word comes after another.
So there is.
So it's modeling the mechanisms of the world that we live in that lead to such kind of output. Like why does it understand? Let's say it's predicting the tokens of a really amazing fiction. Why does it will capture some understanding of like, oh wow, wonder, disappointment, amusement, you know, romance. It is going to understand this topic because it's impossible to do this at the scale with all the fictions that exist today and still be able to predict everything. So this is fundamentally why over parameterized models doesn't mean it'll only pack all the knowledge in the models. It's actually still going to understand things.
Is this something you know from observing how the system operates at scale, or is this something you know from the fact that there is in some way your technical teams across Silicon Valley and otherwise have coded a sense of understanding into it?
Well, it's fundamentally comes to the world modeling problem, right? Working definition of Feynman's thing. What is a world model? It's able to predict the next state given the previous state.
Right.
But what does it actually mean to be able to do that? It means that you can recreate the world.
Interesting. So you have to understand the world and then recreate it in the next state.
Yeah. So let's say I have like trillions of driving videos, and I train a really good driving simulator. Okay. And it's pixel perfect. Like you can start with the initial frame of your dash cam, and it's able to like show 2 hours of driving, which is looking almost like how you would have shot it on your own camera. Now, does this mean like it literally understands driving and how the road and transport and like traffic works? Or is it that it's functional enough and we can take it for granted that it understands?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Are you aware?
And I really, by the way, all of this, if you go too meta from here, if we have like hours and hours to talk about this, like we can go to the point of like, are we living in a simulation?
Yes, it's always, that's where all downhill roads.
Yeah.
Are you aware of this very famous debate that happened between Noam Chomsky and B.F. Skinner?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
About behaviorism and
correct.
meaning in language.
Interestingly, you know, I'll tell you my academic lineage.
Give me 1 second before, so that people have context in this
Sure.
debate. Effectively, the biggest name in psychology in the 50s was this man called B.F. Skinner who came up with this idea of behaviorism, which basically said, if I do behavior X and I get a reward after that, I'm much more likely to do it.
Yes.
Sounds pretty obvious, but then Skinner extended this argument into language. Said kids basically say milk, mother gives milk, kids learn milk means milk, and therefore they form connections and sentences. Until a very fresh professor, I don't even think he was a professor, Chomsky was young, he comes on the scene and says, no, this is not how language operates, because humans have an understanding of what words mean and can produce infinite sentences from finite words, which is not how it would be if we were just learning sentence X produces reward Y, sentence A produces reward B, then we'd learn a finite. And this debate effectively changed the course of psychology from behaviorism, which is behavior is primary when it comes to thinking about the mind, to cognition, which is something happens internally, something happens to your mind, and that produces action. Fair summarization. You were telling me about your academic lineage.
Yeah, so my academic lineage dates back to Skinner, basically. So I think, so Peter Beale was my advisor, Andrew Ng was his advisor, and then Michael Jordan was his advisor. I think Jordan was advised by Rumelhart. I think Rumelhart had one person, and then that person was advised by Skinner. That was I did this. Everyone likes to look at their academic tree for some reason, and I look at it, and that's how I discovered Skinner, and then that's how I discovered this thing. Skinner was right, by the way, like the sense that there's a reason these AI models are able to like actually go do things now. They're trained with reinforcement learning. They're not just trained with next token prediction. And the thing both of them missed was the fact that cognition is built through world modeling, which is, generative modeling. This is trying to predict the next thing from previously. I don't know if our brain does that or it tries to just predict missing parts or, it doesn't have to necessarily do it the next from the previous. But Chomsky was wrong entirely. Like Skinner was at least partially right. Like in the sense you are like trying to do something, and as a result of doing that, you're learning to model the world in a way that helps you to get something done. And there is like a version of how to build AI that DeepMinders had, like Rich Sutton and David Silverwood said, reward is enough. I think that's the name of the paper. Reward is enough or something like that. Or reward is all you need. I forget exactly. That they just think if you have enough tasks that you have a task distribution over, and if you train an AI to master all those tasks, where the only objective function is success or failure of those tasks, if that distribution of tasks is wide enough, you're going to have to model the world in a way that helps you be successful across that, and that'll lead to AGI. And that was actually the paradigm in which all the AI researchers were working in before Ilya Sutskever and OpenAI came up with GPT. That's why AlphaGo was the biggest moment in AI, because it was pure RL. AlphaZero even said, ignore all the expert Go player games. We're going to throw all that away and just train AI to just succeed against itself, a previous version of itself. And that repeated multiple times will lead to a superhuman level effort. And that happened. But then what was a failure in that approach was they didn't have a mechanism to take that and scale it to a real world useful task where there's no real reward function.
Right. The reward function is ambiguous.
Yes, that's where language comes in. Because language can be a reward through just language feedback. If there is no way to say something is a success or a failure, but you just have a natural language annotation to, a description of the task or a feedback on the task, like a chat response.
Right.
That is signal too.
Like encouragement is signal.
Correct.
You look at me and you're like, oh,
yes,
that's
yes,
signal, right?
yes.
So that's a reward.
So implicitly you're modeling the reward through text tokens for ambiguous things. So you need to have the ability to understand the real world in some abstraction. It cannot just be just pixels, because that's too compute intensive and you need to still learn the abstractions to operate on. It turns out we human beings have developed an amazing abstraction to model the world for ourselves and model and describe each other and like working way in which we actually operate efficiently for ourselves. So that's the language. We invented alphabets, we invented words, phrases, sentences for a reason. It's not perfect. So every language has its flaws, but it works, right? Like we have survived as a civilization. As a civilization, we moved way faster after the invention of language than before.
Right.
We built a lot more things.
Right.
And so why do you need an AI to go through its own journey of discovering its own languages and maybe it might come up with something that's more efficient than what we have. But like when we have so much of the footprint of human intelligence through natural language on the internet, because when someone writes a Reddit post or a Reddit comment, they're not just like writing some random tokens, they're actually describing how their thought process do. Like they're not just saying something, they're actually describing their thought process, they're explaining it. So that helps your AI model the whole concept called chain of thought implicitly. Right? When someone's like in a forum, someone's posing a problem and someone's actually coming up with a solution to it, they're not just giving the answer, they're actually walking you through the steps.
Right.
Textbooks have that.
And then
Textbooks have that too. So there's so much valuable bits of intelligence in all those tokens, where you're not just giving the end output, which is the David Silver way of thinking about things. End output is all that matters. They're actually giving the trajectory to get there. And if the AI can learn that, then it can use that to solve
Exit
newer
now.
problems faster. So natural language and coding becomes very important to like inculcate the reasoning in all these models. Which is why the GPT paradigm took over the RO paradigm. But now it's coming back together because the GPT paradigm saturates because there's only a finite number of tokens on the internet. So then what you need to do is have the
Exit
model
now.
generate its own tokens and have the model reward itself and iterate. Which is what happens in things like this self-learning and reflection, where you have the model take a prompt, write a completion, and then write an explanation for why it did it, and then grade itself for both the explanation and the output, and then train on it again.
At the
So that's how
roundabout, take the
models have this
second exit.
concept of automatic chain of thought. Like you don't need to like manually annotate chains of thought. You can take successful
Exit
completions,
now.
have it annotate itself, thought process behind it, and then go back and try to write a different completion with a new thought process. And that itself could be an iteration step. So when models become generally intelligent like this, you can mix and match them a lot to break the symmetry and derive a signal that you otherwise cannot get for ambiguous things.
I'm not entirely sure I understand all of that, so that makes
Get ready to turn
first
left.
off, I think I'm not sure I understand like that's
Turn left. Turn right. Destination. Your
Your
route guide
wife
is
has certain unhappiness about something happening in her workplace, and
Let's do it.
it's not
I gotta get
really
home
so
in
much
time.
about trivial example about offering a solution, but understanding the content of her experience, which is emotions, feelings.
Sure.
She's feeling it, and I want you to understand as a friend what I'm feeling. I don't need you to do this. It's not about doing it whatsoever. It's about psychological content for psychological contents, expressing emotions. And so states of emotions that come back in language, that come back in the human experience, that you cannot have a human experience without that have nothing to do with behavior. It just means that and make this
It still has to come to do with behavior. The very fact that you pointed out that they are not looking for a solution, they're looking for encouragement. They're looking, or just listening.
or just
Yeah, they just want to rant it out. They just want to rant it out that they need someone to listen.
So
That you model the behavior. You model their reward signal.
is expression.
Like you know that what is the positive reward for them is not you offering a solution, but you just being there to listen. And your actions are towards that generating that reward for them. So it still fits in the Skinner paradigm.
Sure. So I see what you're saying is that the
Like
reward system.
Skinner paradigm is essentially reward is all you need. Like everything has a reward, and like you execute a sequence of actions towards that. And in this case, your reward is to generate that positive dopamine for the person that's complaining to you, and you're just doing that. The only issue with the Skinner paradigm is like many of these things require a basic fundamental understanding of like theory of mind, how the world works, world models, and it's impossible to capture that without natural language and like internet scale data. And that's why the GPT paradigm comes in.
You know, very interestingly, and I do not know why I suddenly remember all the psychologists and what they have to say. I learned this from John Piaget about how kids learn how to learn.
Yes.
And a lot of it depends on the tools you have.
Correct.
So if you have hands, holding becomes a word. And because holding becomes a word, it gets exported into other contexts, and now you could be holding an emotion, for instance. Which is not the physical act of holding, but you've abstracted it. Or if punching is a thing, you could be punching above your weight, which is not literal. And so a lot of thought depends on verbiage that arrives from the tools we have at our disposal. So if I had a screwdriver, screwing becomes a word. If I had a hammer, then
Interesting.
right? And so effectively are, and you see this brilliantly with even the academic end of psychology, because until computers hadn't come, cognition wasn't.
Yeah.
We were thinking in gears and cubes, and then suddenly we were thinking in inputs, processing, and output as soon as computers come. So in a lot of ways, the tools we have will allow us to reflect on the way we operate and sort of go from there.
Actually, that's interesting. I guess prior to science, people were mainly thinking about concepts of AI in the context of cybernetics, like robotics, like physical output states, right? Because that's what they were valuing at the time, right? Manufacturing. So it's very interesting. What you're basically saying is like human beings are driven to think about things in the context of what tools they have access to at that moment in time, and it starts right from the time you're kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, like, my body is effectively the hardware substrate on which all software abstractions happen.
Got it. Yeah.
And in that case, it really begs the question, because there is an anthropomorphic principle in trying to put AIs into robotics in the first
Right.
place, right? You're thinking of creating something like you. And then you're like, maybe I can do it, maybe I can be a child. And that's a physical manifestation. And then you're like, no, maybe there is an agentic possibility here. I can have an assistant which still operates on text, which still plays on language, but then can go execute on rails many different tasks and many different transactions, right? It still depends on the infrastructure, what the intelligence of this can do. If the infrastructure is tokenization and sort of a Markov chain of texts, right? Then it's LLMs. And if the rails are suddenly all these spots on the internet geography where it can do things, and it's an agent. I wonder, as the hardware substrate evolves, as we give it an opposable thumb, cycle, as we give it you see the evolution of the changes. I wonder what intelligence is.
Yeah. So let me just say that. But the interest in humanoids might have arise through like an intention to create something like ourselves. I think that it doesn't mean it's unnecessary today. Like there is an argument in favor of humanoids, even when people just have like things like tabletop, whatever packaging in Amazon can be done, all but it's the same thing as like you building customer care chatbots even before something like ChatGPT exists. People are already using AI in customer care. Yeah, yes. It's a dialogue train. Cambridge inside it, basic campus. It's more that the volume of things you can do expands dramatically, and that's a complete direction. And I think the same thing will happen with humanoids. Because the dexterity that 5 fingers gives you, whatever, you can use 4 fingers, 6 fingers, doesn't matter. And the arms and the legs for locomotion. Having one robot that can locomote and manipulate objects, and the vision system that you get. You don't even need to have like eye, like kind of like cameras that a human eye would serve as. You can have cameras all around the robot. You can have cameras low, above, doesn't matter. Just like how a Tesla car has like 8 cameras.
Turn left.
I think you can do a lot of amazing things within one single system. And because of that, the intelligence of that physical system is way higher. Physical intelligence.
Right, sure. It can move around visually, spatially.
Yes.
Physical space, yeah.
Correct. So that's still going to happen. Like people are going to push on that.
Right.
And that's still going to be complementary to all the digital intelligence that can go and do tasks on a browser.
Right.
And pair this together, it's going to appear pretty insane.
You just order groceries by looking at the fridge. My robot looks at the fridge, orders grocery, prepares
Correct.
for tonight. Yeah, and it's all
Yeah.
done. I don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
It understands what I prefer, and so like there's a whole smooth, seamless supply chain there.
Correct.
Right. So that can happen, I understand. But we discussed so much about the software part of it and understanding and what it means in terms of data networks and sort of tokens and all that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand on the hardware front. Humanoid robots are one thing. Is there something apart from just building bigger data centers and sort of scaling GPU power? Is there something else to the hardware that's going to give it a quantum leap in 10 years?
Well, the biggest threat to a data center is if the intelligence can be packed locally on a chip that's running on the device. And then there's no need to inference all of it on like one centralized data center. It becomes more decentralized. And even better, if the models that are coming along with the chip are things that adapt to you. And by the way, you may not even need that for adaptation to you. It could just be data that lives on your computer or your device that can be retrieved on the fly. So retrieval augmented generation, tool calls, all of that can already help personalize things to you. But imagine we crack something like test time training where there are some tasks that you repeatedly do on your local system, and the AI watches it and you're fine with the AI watching it because the AI is living on your computer, it's not going to the servers, and it adapts to you, and over time starts automating a lot of the things you do. That way you don't have to repeat it. That's your intelligence, you own it, it's your brain. Then that really disrupts the whole data center industry. Like it doesn't make sense to spend
All this money.
500 billion, 5 trillion, whatever, on building all these centralized data centers across the world that do a lot of the intelligence workloads for people. This is the question. This is whatever. It's a $10 trillion question, $100 trillion question. Why, or like when will it be the case that something like a Comet browser or like ChatGPT agent or operator can all just run locally, not just chatbot. You can have a version of like a GPU-like model running on your couple of MacBooks strung together. So which means one or 2 years from now, you can have a chatbot that you can talk to. But that's not going to be a disruption to the data center industry, because the data center models will start doing way more frontier things that you still wanted. I'm talking about a really good end-to-end agent that just looks at whatever you're looking at on the computer and actually a very efficient chip locally, and then it's very intelligent enough that it can complete tasks reliably. That's not yet happened. When that happens, I think it'll be very interesting. Whether it'll completely disrupt the data center business, or whether it'll like pour some water on it but not entirely disrupt it. Maybe some of the extremely high reasoning capabilities are still going to be in the data center models. And then who gets to take the profits out of the models running locally, right? Like who
makes the money?
Who makes the money?
Are you
Of course,
selling it one time?
Apple has a massive advantage here because they have a great chip business. Like M1 chips are great. Their devices are very power efficient. Qualcomm obviously is going to be relevant. So the chip companies have a lot to gain here, and then the OEMs have a lot to gain here because at the end they're the distributors for the actual devices.
Right.
So Samsung, of course, Lenovo, HP, they're all going to be relevant in that business. So I think like as a company, like as a software company like Perplexity, we want to be available on both. Whatever users want. You still need an operating system or an application that takes the model and actually goes out and does it. So we'll work together with all these OEMs. We already do a lot of these partnerships, and we're going to do more of that.
Sure.
But that in my mind is the real question. Like, when will that happen, or will it even happen?
Is that the next quantum leap in the game?
I wouldn't call it a quantum leap. It's not necessarily going to be a very new capability.
Sure.
But it is economically very consequential.
Sure. I think even utility-wise, because you just remove the fear of privacy.
It'll be a faster, like look, everyone wants this. Maybe with the exception of people building data centers, I would say the biggest blockers here are like the chip that actually comes on the devices. I don't think it's happening on the phone anytime soon. I think it could happen on a MacBook or an iPad, which will still be very, very big.
Yeah.
It'll feel as big as the Macintosh moment, which was very consequential, by the way, in the history of computing. It's considered as one of the most landmark devices launched, even though it was a failure business-wise. I think it'll be as consequential as that, because first time you actually get to feel like you own the AI. Right now, what is your feeling? Like companies like OpenAI,
I'm renting it from
Perplexity, they're all,
what I feel.
yeah.
I feel like I'm renting space.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that'll have a pretty big impact.
Got it.
in terms of how people view the AI. I think all these other things, like, people developing relationships with AIs, you're not going to be scared of someone like completing all the data anymore. It's all going to live locally on your computer.
Is it important or constant about feel something, or the question of consciousness and sentience? Is that important?
It's I mean, any question is interesting, right? Like any question to is interesting. I think it kind of doesn't like I think tweeted, like, today's neural networks might already be slightly conscious. I don't actually know what he meant by that, but it all comes down to the question of whether you think animals are conscious. And do we have like animal level, like is a cat really conscious, or is human consciousness at a different level, different order of magnitude more conscious than a cat?
Yes.
And so where would you rank a current AI system that has some agency and memory, autonomy, and observation? It has access to all your data and stuff. And let's say you think on the back, like, it can take all the dump of data it's observing and do some chain of thought thinking in the background. It doesn't have to output anything for that. Would you call that system? It's not the model, it's a system. Would you call that system that has all these tools and like background processing of all the offline context? Would you call that whole system as slightly conscious because it's taking some time to reflect on the events it's observed over the day? And an updated understanding, like it has a profile, or let's say take the current ChatGPT or Perplexity like systems, which already have a profile of every user through like concepts like memory, and based on your past queries, it's updating that memory state every few weeks or months or whatever. Is it actually conscious of you then?
I think as far as the concept goes in human understanding, it has to do with emotional symmetry, and I'll tell you why I think that. In the case of my loss, say I lose somebody close to me or whatever, even my dog is going to show symptoms of an emotion that I'm experiencing. He's going to mirror it in some capacity. Mirror neurons, empathy, all fall in the same range of concepts here. My chatbot might give me very reasonable advice. It might even make me feel seen and heard, but it has no semblance of emotional symmetry in that moment. It does not feel what I feel. And so that's actually the base question I've been
But let's say your chatbot knows, let's say that you lost a very close person in your family, sure. It had access to that.
Mm-hmm. And it makes all the bookings.
Let's say
it makes the bookings for the funeral. It finds whatever.
Yeah. So let's say it's all in the state, right? It's all in the prompt. And so when it responds to you, it says, "Hey, listen, Prakar, I know you lost this person. I know how you're feeling right now. Here's what I think is the right thing for you to do." Would you call that as emotionally symmetric or asymmetric?
No, I think zoom it out a little bit. Is the chatbot or whatever I'm talking to capable enough to turn around and do the exact opposite thing and have no personal emotional cost to it? So, for instance, right now it's extending this hand of empathy and trying to sort of relate to my situation. Can it turn around and stab me in some way? Can it take the power out of my office space just because now it is unhappy or it's decided to change? So truly, it's not just that one static moment in time. If my friend is feeling bad for my loss, their next moment is kind of linked to this moment. And so they might have defection from that base state. They may not feel as bad about me once they go home, but they'll still have a residue of feeling bad and they'll still think about me. And so this continuity between these static moments, it's basically a continuous chain. I'm not
এবার ভয়ঙ্কর এক ঘটনায় কেঁপে উঠল বাংলাদেশ। তবে ঘটনা নিছক একটি দুর্ঘটনা নাকি ষড়যন্ত্র, সেই প্রশ্ন কিন্তু আজকে দিনভর বিভিন্ন জায়গায় চর্চিত হচ্ছে। যে ঘটনা আজকে ঘটেছে তা কিন্তু বহুদিন ধরেই মোহাম্মদ ইউনূস ঘটাতে চাইছিলেন। কক্সবাজার থেকে সেন্ট মার্টিনস যাওয়ার পথে একটি জাহাজ আজকে দাউ দাউ করে আগুনে জ্বলে রীতিমতো ভস্মিত হয়ে গেল। বাংলাদেশের বিভিন্ন জায়গায় আগুনে পোড়ার ঘটনা আমাদের কাছে নিত্য নৈমিত্তিক ঘটনা। তবে এক্ষেত্রে একটি প্রকাণ্ড জাহাজ আগুনে পুড়ে গেল, তা কিন্তু এর আগে কখনো বাংলাদেশের ইতিহাসে সেভাবে সেন্ট মার্টিনস দ্বীপে হয়নি। সেন্ট মার্টিনস দ্বীপটি কেন বিতর্কিত সেটি যদি আপনারা জানেন তাহলে আপনারা নিজেরাই বুঝতে পারবেন যে এই সেন্ট মার্টিনস দ্বীপটি যদি এখন বন্ধ হয়ে যায় তাহলে সব থেকে বেশি লাভবান হবেন মোহাম্মদ ইউনেস। কারণ মোহাম্মদ ইউনেস চান এই সেন্ট মার্টিনস দ্বীপটি আমেরিকার হাতে তুলে দিতে, যা আমেরিকার লং টার্ম জিওপলিটিক্যাল যে পারপাস সেটাকে সলভ আউট করবেন, এবং আমেরিকা কিন্তু দিনের পর দিন এই